Congressman Bill Johnson sitting down with us today, and in the run-up to November 8th, I think it's important to ask you to tell voters why they should put you back in Washington, D.C. to represent them.
Well, look, I've been in this job now for almost 6 years. In 2010, I put my mule farm plowboy experience, 26 and a half years in the Air Force, small business owner, corporate executive. I put that experience on the table for the people of this district and said, do you want me to represent you? And they said yes. Since then, I have focused my attention on trying to keep Washington from issuing more onerous regulations, creating a fairer, simpler tax code so Americans can keep more of what they earn, so job creators can do what they do best, create jobs, protecting Medicare and Social Security for our seniors, protecting our national security, securing our borders, and making sure that that terrorists and drug lords are not coming across our borders to do us harm, and addressing our national debt. We're $20 trillion almost in debt, and it's rising every single day. I've supported balanced budgets, I've voted for balanced budgets, and I've supported a constitutional amendment to the Constitution to make Washington balance its budget. So I think that I've demonstrated to the American people and to the people of eastern and southeastern Ohio that I understand their needs and their concerns. I listen. You and I just got finished talking about how much time we spend traveling this district, listening to the people that we represent. And so I'm prepared to bring that experience back and continue the job if the people would like for me to, and I sure hope I get their support on November 8th.
Your job is vitally important, at least it's seen as vitally important by the people of the Ohio Valley. When you go to D.C., do you feel as though you can affect real change there? And you've spent 6 years there. What changes do you feel have been made in the time you've spent there?
Look, I'll be the first one to admit things move slowly in the federal government. There is no question about that. You got to have Mars, Jupiter, and Venus all to line up. You got to have the president willing to support a particular issue. You got to have the Senate willing to support a particular issue, and then you got to get the support in the House to make it happen. That's 535 members of the legislative branch plus one over in the White House. So things do move slowly, and it can be painstaking sometimes. That's why I have worked hard to reach out across the aisle to work things like liquid natural gas exports, to force the federal government to get us into those global export markets, creating some 45,000 jobs here at home and about $6 billion in new wage earning potential. That's why I have fought the president's war on coal. That war on coal is very, very real. All you got to do is ask the coal miners that are getting laid off, the families that are being disrupted, the jobs that are being killed, and the skyrocketing energy costs associated with it. That's why I do the work that I do. But it's frustrating how long it takes, and I'll be the first one to admit that. But if you're not standing up at the plate, taking a swing at the pitch like the Cleveland Indians did last night in winning their spot in the World Series, if you're not taking a swing at the pitch, you don't have a chance to get on base.
This might be the same question, yet a little more direct, but people associate Washington, D.C. in the Ohio Valley with the declining coal industry, with ISIS, with the Affordable Care Act, and a lot of people don't view those in a positive light in eastern Ohio. How does Bill Johnson stay above the fray? How do you differentiate yourself from your colleagues in Washington, D.C. that have made it possible for the Affordable Care Act to go through, for ISIS to continue to move on? How do you do that?
Well, I didn't sign on to this job for a new career in politics. I've already had one career, two careers actually, farm boy, military guy, small business owner. I signed on to this job because I love our country and because I understand what working people go through to get up, to put on their work clothes, to go out and earn a living, to provide food on the table and to provide for their children's education. And so when I go to Washington, D.C. on behalf of the people that send me there, I go fully informed because I travel this district and I listen. You know, whether it's in-person town halls or whether it's telephone town halls or just going out and meeting people in a business. Or you've seen our Undercover Congressman series where I stand across the counter at a Wendy's or at a service station or at a grocery store and talk to people where they live and where they work and hear what their concerns are. That's the way I can sleep at night because I know that I'm listening to the people that I represent and I remain informed when I go there to do the job.
Politicians, right or wrong, aren't necessarily viewed favorably in this day and age. And one thing that people focus on is the fact that there's a lot of talk when it comes to politics, but in the Ohio Valley, around the country, people don't see a lot of action or a lot of change. Does that just kind of speak to what you were talking about, just the wheels of Washington moving slowly? What is that?
Well, it does. It does. And, you know, I hear what you're saying, too, because I never dreamed in my wildest imagination that I would actually be a politician. I'd much rather prefer the term statesman. You know, I'd much rather prefer that the people that I represent see me as someone that's rolling up his sleeves and getting into the thick of the battle and going out and doing what's right on their behalf. That's why, as you know, we spend a lot of time here in Steubenville working government housing issues, connecting the dots with the different divisions of HUD and the local authorities and the elected officials and the Jefferson Metropolitan Housing Authority here in Steubenville. Those are some of the kinds of things that we do. But you know, for me, it's not enough just to complain about a slow-moving system. I'm a member of a group called Problem Solvers, or No Labels. It's a group of Republicans and Democrats. We leave our political positions and our ideologies at the door, and we come together and we talk about those things where we agree. Things like a real all-of-the-above energy policy. Things like a real strong defense and protecting our national security, how to create jobs, how to rectify, how to work our way through this devastating change to our healthcare system that has taken $716 billion out of Medicare and taken insurance policies away and increased the cost of healthcare. How do we address those things? And believe it or not, there are both Republicans and Democrats that agree. I think that's one of the reasons why I've had 7 pieces of legislation signed into law by this president, and it's why seniors groups and veterans groups and business groups and economic development groups have recognized my work and the work of my team and have awarded me recognition from their organizations because of the work that we do.
Number one challenge facing Eastern Ohio right now is what?
Jobs in the economy. People want to be able to go to work. They want a meaningful job. They want higher wages. I want them to have higher wages. I want to bring jobs here. How do we do that? We stop the downward pressure of more onerous regulations from the EPA, from the Interior Department, from the Bureau of Land Management. We just broke the code here not too long ago, and you probably heard the announcement that the Bureau of Land Management is opening up some 1,600 acres in the Wayne National Forest for oil and gas leasing. That came as a result of work that I have done with the Bureau of Land Management, and they're going to be doing that through a system called the live internet auction. That's one of those 7 pieces of legislation that I was able to get passed and signed into law. They'll be going out online to give more companies an opportunity to bid on those lease opportunities. That's going to raise more revenue. That's going to make it better for the people that live in this region.
A large issue, or something that looms large, is the heroin epidemic. And we've seen a lot of stunning images out of your district, East Liverpool, it comes to mind. How can you tackle the heroin epidemic as a congressman coming out of Washington, D.C.?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, it's not a problem that legislators alone are going to be able to solve. It's not one we're going to be able to legislate our way out of. It's not one we're going to be able to arrest and incarcerate our way out of. This is a problem that's going to take engagement from the top to the bottom. From every aspect of our culture and society is going to have to get involved. It's going to take legislators, it's going to take law enforcement, it's going to take state elected officials, it's going to take mental health providers and healthcare providers. Most importantly, it's going to take families and friends and faith-based organizations, because we've got to change our culture in the way we're going about this. We've got to be really, really hard on the criminal aspects of this opioid epidemic, those that are providing and provisioning and manufacturing and bringing illicit drugs into our country. A couple of the things, though, that we have done legislatively, one of them has already been signed into law. It was called the CARA Act, Comprehensive Addiction Recovery Act. Senator Rob Portman carried that legislation in the Senate. I was one of the sponsors in the House. And basically what it does is it brings to light the opioid epidemic, begins to educate healthcare providers so that they can identify the addicted more quickly, puts money toward real treatment and recovery programs. It's a step in the right direction. It's not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve the whole problem, but it's a big, big step in the right direction. I have a piece of legislation that's working its way through. One of the biggest problems we have is how do we stop young people from developing those addictive behaviors before they get out of control. One of the biggest problems we've got in our country is that children, young people, 12 to 17 years old, statistics tell us about 1 in 30 of them are abusing cough medications with a drug in it called dextromethorphan. It's a long word. I have to say it slowly because it's got so many consonants. But it's a drug that they use in cough medications, and young people are drinking it to get that euphoric high feeling, and they have no idea that they're developing addictive behaviors, and it's highly addictive. We're working with other agencies and organizations, and I've partnered with a Democrat, Doris Matsui from California, to move legislation through the House to make it, you have to be 18 years old under my legislation to purchase that medication. It's going to make parents aware that there's a problem. It's going to increase education and outreach to make people aware so that we can stop those addictive behaviors before they get worse into early adulthood.
One of the pieces that I'm working on for this November, and I'm sure you can provide a little bit of insight, is called the Silent 40. And what that's about is eligible voters who don't turn out on Election Day. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can provide your thoughts and maybe try to dive into the mind of a voter who feels as though, for one reason or another, that maybe their vote doesn't matter, or maybe they don't want to show up because they don't feel the process represents them. What would be your message to the voters that are trying or thinking about staying home?
Look, you know, I understand the frustration of the American people, those that would say, you know, politics are corrupt. I mean, look at what we're seeing on national television right now and what's playing out. So I get the frustration because I too am frustrated. But when you go to the foundation of what makes our country unique, it's those inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And how do we exercise those rights? Our right to vote is the fundamental right of an American citizen. We are the board of directors. We have no right to complain if we don't get out and vote. But here's the real crux, and this is what I would say to any individual that is considering staying home and not voting. You know, about 1.3 million Americans have given their lives to protect our fundamental rights and freedoms. And the most fundamental right that we have is the right to vote. I could sit here and list you from the Civil War to World War II to Vietnam, strong, Ohio-hardened, valued men who won the Medal of Honor, giving their lives in sacrifice to our country. We owe it to them to go do what they protected that we could do. We're dishonoring our brave men and women in uniform that put life on the line to protect our freedoms when we don't take advantage of our right to vote. Your vote does count. Your voice does count.
Appreciate you taking time to be a part of that message. My final question to you, Michael Lorentz, Bill Johnson, what is the biggest difference?
Biggest difference is my farm boy experience, 26 years in the military, small business owner. I've signed the front side of a paycheck. I know how to balance a budget. I know how to control spending. I wish I could get more people in Washington to agree with me on those things, and I'm working very hard to do that. But those are the things that I bring to the table, and I certainly hope that on November 8th, the people of eastern and southeastern Ohio will give me a chance to continue that work.
Congressman Johnson, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks
Good luck
a lot,
on Election Day.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.